streaming now on Peacock.
We sell toilet tissue and local newspapers. That is in order of quality.
From the crew that brought you The Office
My name is Ned Sampson. I am your new editor-in-chief.
comes a new comedy series.
Have you read this paper?
It sucks. But we are going to make it better.
Meet the underdog journalists
I hope it's not too disruptive to have me shake everything up.
Don't be so self-defecating.
with major issues.
Oscar. Oh, God. Not again.
The Paper, only on Peacock, streaming now.
This episode is brought to you by FXX and Hulu. Futurama returns on September 15th, blending heartfelt moments with razor-sharp humor while accidentally saving the day. The Planet Express crew is back, defying gravity and common sense. From the creator of The Simpsons comes 10 new episodes where the romance is hotter, the threats are bigger, and the action hits harder. Don't miss the all-new season of Futurama returning September 15th at 8 p.m. Watch it on FXX or stream it on Hulu.
Unfiltered discussions, unexpected guests. No topic is off limits, from sex and relationships to the human condition, personal anxieties, and so much more. The only talk show of its kind in the world. This is The Last Show with David Cooper.
Hi, welcome in. I hope you're having a nice start to the weekend. It's The Last Show, a program kind of like a dive bar. There's curious conversations and a bunch of weirdos around. We're going to have fun tonight, and here's what you'll learn on tonight's program. It might kind of surprise you to know only 3 objects from outside our solar system from interstellar space have ever been detected, and the most recent one will fly by the sun and get close to us around Halloween. It's called 3-Eye Atlas. We hope to learn things about it that could shed light on where we came from, how we got here, how the Earth formed. Also, is it secretly an alien craft? That is what we'll cover in about 10 minutes' time. Then boredom. Modern technology seeks to alleviate it. You don't ever have to be bored when there's a phone in your pocket. But what if boredom wasn't the enemy? It was life's answer to the deep existential questions. In fact, silence, stillness, putting that phone away might save you from a digital overload. That conversation halfway through the hour. There's going to be lots of interesting guests on tonight's show, but for now, let's dive in.
Want to be part of The Last Show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
And in lizards mating with themselves and giving birth to a lizard whose parents are apparent, just one lizard, so sort of cloning itself news, we go to Chief Parthenogenesis Correspondent reporting live from his apartment about Telford's exotic zoo in the UK. Tony Five is here. That made little sense, but he's going to clarify it for you.
David, wonderful to be here as a Parthenogenesis networking professional. I don't like to talk about racism, but let's just call it mating.
Parthenogenesis. That's when an animal gives birth without having a mate.
That's what she said. Anyway, David, this was essentially a lizard virgin birth, my friend.
Wow. So in some sense, this is the lizard messiah coming to save all the lizards from their lizard sins.
Now, there is a little bit of coincidence there. Lizards can walk on water.
Oh boy, that is true. They can.
Thank you. See, David, sometimes you think I'm just an idiot that appears on your show from London, but I'm not, and I'm not in London.
You're not just an idiot.
Thank you. It had 8 babies, my friend. No mating. There wasn't a male involved, which obviously does a lot for me in Tinder. And I mean, the zookeeper's where it was. It was in a place called Telford, which is like this really odd new town. I say Telford's a new town, so it wasn't one of the old towns that's been around in England for decades and hundreds of years. It was like a created town, an artificial town, and it was in a place there, and it's like Jurassic Park, isn't it? Do you not think?
It sort of is. I didn't know that lizards could give birth without having a mommy and daddy lizard.
No, that's what your parents told you, isn't it?
That is. They gave me the lizards and the lizards conversation.
Did you know mummy lizard and daddy lizard, they love each other, David? And they do a special hug.
And then they said, just because mommy and daddy lizard don't love each other doesn't mean they don't love you. No, they never had that talk with me.
Did they not? Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I think this happened, and it will happen to us soon. I think lizards just got fed up of the opposite sex. I think female lizards just like, do you know what? I don't need boy lizard. They just turn up, they use me for one thing, and they were like, you know what? I can do this on my own.
And so they did. Now, I know you're definitely a DNA expert from your Groupon in biology that you got 10 years ago.
Now, DNA, is that the Chicago Bulls?
No, that's something else. But like, what would the genetic material be? Would it just be a copy of the one parent? Like, wouldn't they be clones?
Yes, there were clons of the same parent. So you have 8 little babies running around. It was essentially a reproduction clone of the mother lizard. Yeah, 8, and they were healthy. There was 8 of them. They're called cask-headed iguanas. I don't know why they're called cask-headed. I imagine it's because their head looks like a funeral casket or something like that. And yeah, never met a male. Again, how do you know she never met a male? Now, this is the big thing. I was thinking about this yesterday. How do you know that female lizard didn't sneak out of the zoo at night, have a little booty call, oh yeah, and then come back and pregnant? Just said, no, guys, virgin birth.
I imagine they went through the lizard's cell phone and checked for any text messages that read, hey, you up? And when they didn't find texts like that, they knew it wasn't a Tinder booty call.
I said, yeah, fair enough, yeah. I mean, it's very strange. Parthenogenesis is rare. It does happen in other reptiles, apparently, globally, but it's, it's kind of like a...
So it could happen to you.
Well, I'm hoping it can happen to me. I would love to do that. Would you love to do that? Just one day, like, mate with yourself, which I do most days, to be fair, and just have, like, your own little children, like little... Can you imagine little mini versions of David Cooper?
I could say to my parents, all that time I spent by myself in the bedroom with the door closed, I was actually doing something important for our species.
True. Do your parents push you to have children? Because I know you're like anti-child.
Do they push me to have children? I'll say this, not anymore. I think my mom's given up, but that was very much my mom's mode of action.
Yes.
Throughout my 20s when I was younger and I lived back in my hometown and I was still like in a tight-knit community with my parents and everything. When I left the nest and I eloped and I got married and there was a lot of conflict between me and my parents and now we've resolved it throughout my 30s, it stopped, but that is my mom's default. Like, when am I going to have a grandchild? When am I going to have a grandchild? When am I going to have a grandchild?
Same as mine. I think they're like genetically programmed, like mothers. It's not like a Jewish mother thing. I think it's just a mother thing where they want you to reproduce so that you can have children. And
then you can change all the diapers and deal with all the late nights, and then they get to just enjoy their time with their grandchild.
I think so. But then, like, I think I've told you this before. My mum's just like, she said some really, and I don't think she means it intentionally. She was like, but look at other people. They're like, their lives are complete because they've got children. And I think, what do you mean? Like, my life's not complete because I haven't got a child? I mean, I'm really happy. I've got a nice car. I'm on Tinder. I love my life. I'm happy. I'm with you, David. I mean, if I had a child, like, right this minute, it would be so restrictive for me. It would be restrictive because of the things I would do. And I don't think I'd be able to give it everything I wanted, you know?
It's one way of looking at the world. It's certainly an old school way, and that's how your mother looks at the world. Doesn't mean her way's correct, but if I'm trying to be sympathetic to her plight, you know, that's how she kind of saw things. That's how probably she saw her own life, and so she has a failure of imagination for how people could be happy another way. She sees one way as quote-unquote complete and one way not. It's fine, I guess. It's a little like pushy and pressury, but you don't have to see the world that way is what I'll say.
No, and I can tell you sadly, because I did confront her with it and I said, what does that mean? And it's a really sad reasoning. It's not for any of those reasons you mentioned, probably part of it, but because I was sick and I was on my own, she wanted me to have children so that there would be someone at some stage to be able to look after me and care for me when I got older, because she wouldn't be around. And so it was a really, like, obviously, we'd have to wait 18 years for them to be capable. I mean, a 6-year-old's not going to be able to do much. But that was her reasoning. She said, you're alone. And I'm happy alone. I'm alone, but I'm not lonely.
I don't think your mother's a selfish person. I think she fell into this viewpoint because of the way she was raised. I'm not accusing her of being selfish, but I will say this. It's kind of a selfish way to look at your kids. Like, I'm only having you so you'll take care of me. For one, your kids aren't obligated to take care of you. You hope that they will, but your kid could be a jerk and want to have nothing to do with you. And two, if that's your reason for having kids, maybe you shouldn't have kids.
Exactly. You could just buy a carer or, you know, one of those AI robots that can nurse me.
Yeah, kids are so expensive. Like, save that money, put it in a savings account, invest it, and boom, you can afford for a healthcare worker potentially.
And that's what I kind of said to her, and she sort of stepped back and went, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. So that was it. And you know, I love children. I'm a great godfather, and I'm really responsible and stuff. But no, I'd rather just live in a care home and knock my way through that and give them all hepatitis.
Tony, you mentioned at the commercial break you got a parking ticket and are having a bad day.
No, two things, David. Parking ticket at a sports centre, and I got a speeding ticket. Have you ever had a speeding fine?
Of course.
Have you? I got one from a camera, dude.
Oh.
It upsets me because you can't do it. And the problem is they send you the pictures of you speeding, and it's just a picture of me holding the steering wheel, grinning away. Like my little black...
Yeah, they show you your face like, I'm speeding. And it's like, yeah, I'm guilty. I get it.
Grinning away, big teeth hanging out, and you're like, I can't fight this. I can't petition this. So, yeah, I mean, I've got away with loads of them, just making some sort of sorrowful, pitiful excuse. But this one, I can't do, mate. I just can't do it.
And in other news, Tony 5 in London, England is several £100 poorer than he was yesterday. Tony, it's a pleasure having you on the show. Good luck with the tickets.
David, thank you very much. Love to everyone, and I will speak to you very soon, my friend.
And make like a lizard and mate with yourself. If you want. You're an adult. You do what you want in your own time.
It's all right. I've got some rubber gloves.
Up next, an object from interstellar space, the third of its kind detected, will be coming close to Earth around Halloween. I'm David Cooper. This is The Last Show, and details on the other side of the break.
At Sierra, discover top workout gear at incredible prices, which might lead to another discovery. Your headphones haven't been connected this whole time. Awkward. Discover top brands at unexpectedly low prices. Sierra, let's get moving.
Keep listening to The Last Show with David Cooper, because the alien invasion can wait. The Last Show with David Cooper.
When we think interstellar visitors, we often think of green aliens in spaceships, but occasionally, very occasionally, an object will fly through our solar system from the outer area of the galaxy, if that makes sense. We have now tracked our third such object that we know of that is going to fly through our solar system on October 30th. I just did a terrible job explaining it, but you know who's going to explain this very well? Astrophysicist at York University and co-author of Daydreaming in the Solar System, a book available wherever books are sold, Dr. Jesse Rogerson. I just said a lot of words without saying much. The short, an object called 3I Atlas is approaching the sun, and astronomers are excited about it. And Jesse, welcome to the show.
Thank you, David. Good to be here. Yes, it's exciting. You know, you have a thing coming from really far away. We got a lot of stuff in our solar system. We have planets, we have moons, we have millions of asteroids, millions of comets, but we've only found 3 objects that have come from outside the solar system and flown through. So it's one of these like situations where I think the reason astronomers are so excited about it is, one, it's like proof that of something you expected to happen. They should be out there. But 2, it's kind of like a nice gift wrapped delivery of an object from some other solar system. It's like, hey, you want to see what other solar systems are doing? Here's a little piece of our solar system. Take a look at it up nice and close. And so we point telescopes at it, we learn what it's made of, and then it flies off out into the universe and never to be seen again.
As we look at rocks, asteroids, comets, things that are out in space, we have this bias for things that are found in our solar system, because of course we would. Maybe the makeup of this thing is exotic. Maybe we can learn about the conditions of the early galaxy that weren't biased to what was close to our sun. It's kind of exciting to just look at what it's made of, right?
So I talk about this with my students all the time. When you go to an asteroid here in this, or when a meteorite comes and hits Earth, right? One of the ones from our solar system, I say that's a little time capsule of the early solar system. That stuff was never processed. It never got made into volcanoes. It never got melted. It never got all that. It's just little bits of rocks from 4.5 billion years ago. But that chemical makeup came from the cloud that the solar system formed from, which would not necessarily be the same chemical makeup of other solar systems out there that formed from other clouds that would have, say, maybe they have more carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, who knows, right? The different chemical makeups. And we would never be able to really get a good look at those rocks without flying to those solar systems. So it's exciting when you have one come flying through. What I really love to talk about with this is how we know that it's from outside the solar system. because I have a cool analogy.
Is it because the orbit is so eccentric? And I love that word when you describe orbits as eccentric. Like, I don't even know what that means. I guess my first question is it because of its trajectory? And then the second is, what is an eccentric orbit?
Speed and trajectory. Exactly, it's eccentricity. When we have orbits around the sun, and all of those orbits are closed. And so what that means is it's doing a full circle or oval or ellipse around the sun, but it's closed, it's staying here. But if you find something where the orbit is open, meaning it's unclosed, meaning it's going to come in and go out and not close and turn back around, that's a high eccentricity, a parabolic or a hyperbolic orbit, if you remember your conic sections from math class in high school.
What are you talking about? You're just confusing me, and yes, I do remember.
Those two, parabolas and hyperbolas, are open orbits. And so normally eccentricities in our solar system are less than 1. These things are like 1.5, 6, larger, 7. But it's also the speed, because we know how gravity works.
Mysteriously.
And you imagine, have you ever stood in a half pipe, a skateboarder half pipe?
Snowboarder, yes.
Yes, right. Same thing. So you see like someone at the top of the half pipe on one side, and you watch them come down, go by you, and then go up the half pipe on the other side. They only have so much speed that they can get from that little half pipe hill, right? So they go by you at like 5 kilometers an hour. But imagine you were just sitting in the bottom of a half pipe and a snowboarder went by you at like 150 kilometers an hour. Be like, there's no way that person started at the top of the half pipe. They had to have come from above the half pipe.
Or had a rocket pack strapped to their back.
Or they had a rocket pack, which I think would be a really fun sport to introduce in the Olympics.
Rocket pack snowboarding. We'll cover that after the break, maybe. This object, so we know that it came from outer space. It came from, what's the word for outside of the solar system? Extrasolar? Is there a word for this?
Extrasolar would be, that's a great way of describing it. Interstellar.
Oh, that's the good one. Thanks, Chris Nolan.
If you look at we all think Chris Nolan has such a grip on the collective minds of everybody with movies like Interstellar and Tenet. Yeah.
Don't get me started on Tenet.
So it's Interstellar means in between stars. That's what it means.
Okay.
Right.
So we know based on its trajectory and its sort of like orbit or whatever that it's coming from outer space. It's the third such object. How good a picture will we get of it? I know one thing astronomers do is they look at the light coming off an object and then they break it apart using the cover of that Pink Floyd album, A Prism, or something like that. And then they can tell you what elements are in there. So we're definitely going to learn about what its chemical makeup is. Will we get like a high definition photo of it, or will it just be a blurry speck of light?
It would be, you nailed it. We can get images of it as good as every other image we've ever had of an asteroid or a comet. So not great. It's currently just inside Jupiter's orbit, which is pretty far away, and it's going to get to its closest approach to the sun around Halloween, at which point it'll be roughly the closest to us as well, roughly speaking. And so, it's too far away to get like up close to actually see it as a shape. We won't get that. But what's really interesting is telescopes around the world have been trained on it as soon as it was discovered. And what was really cool is the Gemini Observatory down in Chile, one of the Gemini observatories, held an open night where they had a Zoom room open and anybody could just attend it. They called it Shadow the Scientist. And the entire point of the night was to point this big 8-meter telescope at this comet that's flying through and show people what astronomers do. So there's people from all over the world tuned into this Zoom call and watched astronomers take this big telescope, move it over, point it at the comet, and then do exactly what you said, take the light and spread it into its rainbow colors and start measuring the chemical makeup of this object. I haven't seen the data that has come from that yet, but it was cool that the science was happening. We're interested in what it's made of, but how easy it is to let non-scientists just jump into the astronomy lab and participate.
Speaking of eccentric things and non-scientists, there are people out there, maybe scientists, who claim this is an alien spacecraft. Is there any evidence to support that argument?
Zero evidence. It's pure speculation. It's not like I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's like the least likely explanation.
Improbable.
Yes.
And then my last question here is, yes, we won't get a great picture, but is there a future where objects from interstellar space like this will get a chance to visit them using probes or get a close-up look? Like, is this a goal?
100. That's a great question. And yes, the velocity that they're coming through the solar system is a velocity that we can match. Meaning, if we see it coming from far enough away and we can prepare, we can get a probe out there to rendezvous. It's unlikely that probe will come back to us, so we're going to be beaming stuff back. But yes, in the future, if we can find them early enough, then we could technically visit them as they fly through.
Interesting. And you think we could see, NASA or some space agency in the future doing that in what, 10 years, 50 years, 100 years?
Oh, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, next few decades. I wouldn't say.
The answer to my question is yes.
Yes, the answer is yes.
Well, Jesse, thanks so much for joining me. I appreciate you talking about this Object 3i Atlas. It's going to do a spooky Halloween visit. Well, maybe not visit, but flyby. Thanks for being on the show.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
Dr. Jesse Rogerson is an astrophysicist from York University. After the break, we scroll, we swipe, we refresh. But is getting distracted all the time the answer to a digital overload? Or could it be boredom itself? Boredom as a good thing. Coming up next, we'll explore how philosophy and silence can help us reclaim reflection at a time when we all seem to be allergic to stillness.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just speaking into the void? But with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers, a network of 130 million of them, in fact. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills, and did I say job title? See how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Get started at linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Exploring both interstellar and interpersonal space-time continuums. The Last Show with David Cooper.
In a world with constant buzzing phones, endless feeds, and social media, boredom seems to be almost extinct. My upcoming guest argues that boredom isn't a flaw. It is essential. We need to be bored. Can silence rescue us from a digital overload? That's what we'll discuss with media and communications researcher from Newcastle University in the UK, Sebih Oruç. Sebih, welcome to the show.
Thank you for hosting me.
I read an article that you recently wrote. You make boredom sound almost radical. What makes you think people are so afraid of it these days, that 5 seconds of boredom means they need to grab their phone and scroll?
I think it's, rather than what I think, it is the reality. From people at very early ages to very I have done some research, and 60-year-old unschoolled women are using their phone when they're encountering few minutes of stillness. So it's not, I don't think it's what I think, it's the reality of contemporary time. And I think the reason why we are so much turning into our phones, our computers, TV, is because we are almost afraid of boredom. We are afraid of stillness, slowness.
What makes boredom so unpalatable? What makes boredom so difficult for us? What makes us want to just not be bored the second we're confronted with boredom?
Yeah, that's a very important question. And if we ask someone let's say Slovenian philosopher Žižek, it would be because we are afraid of facing ourselves, because our self is not so great. But my argument is different. My argument is because we have been living in a world where we constantly almost feel the need to do something and to be distracted. This is I think it has to do with capitalism as an ideology, as a worldview. It almost you need to see the world as a place that you need to constantly do something, constantly improve yourself, constantly be part of the system. Because when you are not part of the system, it's almost a failure for capitalism. That's why digital media and etc. is deeply related with neoliberalism and consumerism and
Yeah, underneath the hood of my feed is buy, isn't it? I mean, between the sponsored ads, between people showing off their stuff that they purchased, capitalism is really there in social media. You're right, they are very much linked.
And I think we are at a new stage of capitalism where capitalism has exploited everything, and the only thing that is left is our attention. It's our time. It's our soul.
This got deep very quickly, and I like where this is going. What is the benefit to being bored? I was on a flight the other day, and my phone, I didn't have internet. I didn't download any music. I didn't want to watch any of the TV shows. And I just sat there and stared into the abyss. And my girlfriend thought I was crazy. She was reading a book or something. And I really enjoyed the flight. I just enjoyed sitting there. What benefit does being bored, doing nothing, not scrolling confer to us?
That's actually I think the next part of this essay is going to be about this. And I think it's mostly, so there are two kind of, the philosopher that I'm referring, Heidegger, makes a distinction between two types of boredom. One is superficial boredom, and he actually gives pretty much the same example. He says, I'm not talking about the boredom you have when you are waiting for the train that has been delayed, because that's not the boredom that will bring you, profound questions, rethinking about yourself, rethinking your relation to the world.
Do you mean deep existential boredom? Like that crushing, existential dread that you don't know what the future holds or that you might be deeply unhappy? Are we talking about the deep boredom?
Not necessarily. I don't think it's necessarily unhappiness. He does call it profound boredom, and he says it's an ontological status rather than a psychological, fleeting feeling. It's more about, the superficial boredom is the one that we have when we are waiting for a delayed train, and this doesn't bring us anything. You are not going to make a new discovery about yourself or art or your life or political activism, let's say, while waiting for a delayed train. That won't happen. That won't happen. But if you quote unquote resist the temptation to continue, immediately kill this superficial boredom and let this boredom, let's say for the first 5 times you're not doing anything during this flight. When you let it to go to the stage of profound boredom, that can open a gate for you to relate with the being or with existing in a different world, in a different way that you have been. What this means is that you can, for example, discover something about yourself. You can discover, you can make a new kind of art. I genuinely believe if this much destruction was there, we wouldn't have had Shakespeare or Dostoevsky or Tolstoy. We definitely wouldn't have them.
I feel very fortunate having been a young adult in the 90s when I had to sit at a computer and wait 15 minutes for it to turn on and wait for everything to load on the internet. I feel sort of fortunate that I had crushing boredom in my youth, and kids aren't getting that these days.
Exactly. And it starts at a very early age. I have been visiting some family and etc. over the last few months, and it starts at the age of 2. At the age of 2, people are kids are scrolling down. And my argument is that the problem with digital culture is that it promises to end your boredom, but it actually increases it. People are bored, they turn to their phone and they are still bored. The study that I was quoting in my essay shows this. The problem with digital culture, it doesn't kill boredom, and it prevents us from getting profound boredom. So we are stuck in the superficial boredom.
Interesting.
Which is not helpful in your daily life, but also not helpful in the way that you can, for example, do something artistic, do something creative. Think about a different way of organizing if you are a community organizer or an activist,
Yeah.
Whereas the existing distractions continuously, that's how its relationship with capitalism becomes important. It just basically says the world is like this and it should be like this. Just get distracted, accept capitalism, accept all these inequalities, accept consumerism, accept that we are turning your attention, your time, your psyche into a commodity.
Just make sure you pay your credit card, your monthly bill on time.
Exactly.
The benefits of profound boredom, this as a gateway to depth and reflection and maybe something deeply creative. we're missing out on that when we doom scroll and then we're bored anyway, aren't we?
Exactly. And again, we are stuck in the superficial way. So if it's not that like there is boredom, but there is a specific type of boredom that doesn't help us either way. So it's like studies shows like social media usage or like, influencers, for example, are not necessarily more happy because they economize or like commodify every aspect of their life, and like they continuously have to be present. And like the problem with digital culture, I think, is that like the time that you are not there or the activities that you don't put there almost are deemed non-existent. It's only there. So then it brings my the concept of das Man the Heidegger provides, like the day. It's like almost like a ghost that we all think is important to follow, but we are making all this ghost in the age of social media. So everybody is becoming part of a vicious circle where we recreate our boredom to make other people remain stuck in the superficial boredom.
Well, Sebih, I thought we were going to have a superficial conversation about the minor benefits of not using your phone, but we've really touched on some deep stuff. You're a great speaker. I appreciate you coming on the show and sharing what you wrote about with me.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you hosting, and I hope we can get rid of superficial boredom and have some profound boredom that will lead us, all of us, to rethink and not take things for granted and invent and create.
Me too. Sebih Oruç is a media and communications researcher at Newcastle University in the UK. Sebih, thanks again. I appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you very much for hosting me. I appreciate it.
Coming up next, we'll discuss what me and my girlfriend call singles night, but psychologists call it parallel play. Is it the ultimate couple skill? That's when you both sort of do your own activities to enrich yourself, alone, but together, like reading next to each other or something. So if you need time to yourself, you can take it together. Is that the secret to a good relationship? I'm David Cooper. This is The Last Show, and details in a minute.
If you thought goldenly breaded McDonald's chicken couldn't get more golden, think Golder, because new sweet and smoky special edition Gold Sauce is here. Made for your chicken favorites. At participating McDonald's for a limited time.
We're here because your heightened awareness deserves heightened entertainment. The Last Show with David Cooper.
If you're highly busy and in a couple, what's the secret to having a great relationship? Well, we might take a note from the children's playbook with something called parallel play. That's when you both kind of do your own activity next to each other. We'll talk about what that is here with licensed therapist who runs Laurel Therapy Collective that serves California and Florida. Her name is Laurel Toorn. Laurel, welcome to the show.
Hi.
I have long done this with my girlfriend without knowing there's a fancy psychological concept name for it. We call it singles night. And no, that doesn't mean we're off pretending we're single. That just means we're both in the home together, often next to each other, doing our own thing.
Yeah.
Is this like a good thing couples can do? It's certainly helpful for us.
Absolutely. We're all crunched for time, and we all have a lot of stuff we need to get done, or we just have passion projects. We have hobbies, and we don't want to give those things up for the sake of our relationship. I think one of the pitfalls of social media is like repackaging old concepts and just calling it something new, right? Like couples have always done this. And really what we're talking about is, doing things that you need to do while getting the benefit of co-regulating your nervous system with your partner, which is really great.
Whoa. What does that mean? I feel like that you confused me with those words.
Yeah. Co-regulating your nervous system is both of you benefiting from the presence of another person who's somewhat regulated in the room with you. Like, when you're in a room and someone's like really anxious or just like really grumpy and like it starts to affect you too, that's negative co-regulation, that you start getting amped up. But if your partner is kind of like in a relatively grounded state, both of you are able to help like maintain that grounded state just by being in each other's presence. So if both of you are somewhat regulated and you're doing a task separate but in the same room, your nervous system is going to benefit from that.
Sometimes when we're in bed and we're both on our phones, I actually try not to use my phone in bed. I don't sleep with my phone anywhere near my bed. But when we do it, we can sometimes get engrossed in whatever we're doing. Maybe I'm doom scrolling. Maybe I'm on Reddit. Maybe she's on social media. Maybe she's on Reddit. And then we kind of look at each other like we haven't spoken a word to each other for an hour, but we're next to each other. It feels like there should be something wrong with that. But there isn't. It's actually kind of nice to spend a quiet time. My cat's grooming himself. She's on her phone. I'm doing my thing. Maybe she's reading a book. And it's just sort of nice to be around each other, even though you're not directly paying attention to each other.
For those of us that are not extreme extroverts, it's just too draining to be on and to be like totally focused on another person all the time. And to have those quiet moments is really nurturing and really normal.
Are there other benefits beyond nurturing? Like, I'm reading that it encourages individual growth. That seems like a pretty good benefit for this thing that I had never named until today.
Totally. And, I think that there's such a gift we can give our partners. Like, if they're really interested in something and you're like, yeah, you make that spreadsheet about that. Like, you go deep in an internet research hole about it and encouraging that and making space for it in your time together.
So it all boils down to spreadsheets, I guess.
That's just me.
I'm notorious for having like a billion hobbies. And sometimes she's like, do you want to have a singles night tonight and work on your hobby? And I'm like, yeah. Or I'm like, no. There's also like watching TV together. Does that somehow relate to this when you're both just sitting on the couch? It doesn't sound like productive activity, but it is sort of togetherness time.
It is togetherness. And if you're engaging with each other in some way around it, like talking about it afterwards or like critiquing the performances, if there's some kind of togetherness around it eventually, yes. But I don't know that there's any couple I would say, like, you should really watch more TV together.
I mean, if the alternate is just not spending any time together, maybe. One activity I like is like I cook, and I get pretty like focused when I cook. I'm chopping, I'm heating, I'm broiling, I'm sauteing, I'm softening, I'm putting it together, I'm mixing pasta. I'll stop talking about cooking. And she's just on the couch by the kitchen reading a book. And I consider that to be nice couples time, even though we're not really talking to each other much.
Yeah. Well, I think the difference between that and watching TV together is that you're both engaged in something, like positively engaged, whereas TV can be somewhat of a numbing activity. Not all the time. If it's like really well made, narratively driven, and you're really mentally, intellectually engaged in it, then yes. But a lot of the time we use TV the same way we use social media, which is just kind of numb and check out. Mm-hmm. And that's not what we're going for.
And this shouldn't be the only time you spend together, quiet together and apart. I think it's important to do both. Have nice activity where you have wholesome, connected time. Like that scene I just described, when we actually serve the meal, there's obviously no phones and we talk about our days and stuff. It's important to have balance on how you spend time with one another.
Absolutely. And I really think that there's a continuum. We talk about like, oh yeah, you still need to have date night, even if you've been together 15, 20 years. Like, yes, that's true. You need to have that like protected couples time where you are really focused on each other. I even just will go to my spouse and say like, hey, can we do something connective this afternoon? Whether that's sex or back rubs or just lying down talking to each other, like that. I think it's very healthy and very needed to schedule intimacy, whatever that looks like to the two of you.
I'm so glad I'm with someone who doesn't like back rubs because I don't like giving them. But other than that scene you just described sounds lovely.
Well, but, every couple has their version of back rubs, that it's kind of like the non-sexual intimacy, right? Mm-hmm. And that's the point. Like you have to have all kinds of intimacy. And then that kind of in-between space where it's not necessarily like the protected time for intimacy, but it's together time. And I actually want to shout out my sister-in-law. She said to me, they have a baby and a puppy, which is a little bit insane, right? That they're very, like, there's always someone or some animal that needs their attention.
Can they take the baby back to the breeder? Or no, that doesn't work like that. Okay, sorry, I've never had a kid. I assume it's similar to pets.
Nor would we want to, because my niece is perfect. But, she said to me, it's very easy to just tag team and like, okay, you take the baby, you take the puppy, and we'll meet back up in an hour. That's kind of the easy thing to do, right? But she's like, but you shouldn't do that all the time, because then you're missing out on the togetherness. And like, that's life, is going for a walk in the neighborhood, or like, yep, we're both in the house and the baby's crying and the dog is barking and like it's stressful, and we're in it together trying to address it together. And I think that was really wise of her.
I think so too. This example you gave really shows the greater thing, which is prioritizing, finding that balance, together time, intimate time, good conversation time. Together but not speaking and kind of bonding with your own personal activities time. Time with your friends, not with your partner. Time with your friends, with your partner. I could keep going.
And time alone.
Yes.
Time truly alone. Yeah.
Yes. I work from home. Like I air the show from my apartment, and sometimes my girlfriend's like, leave the house. She never gets time to engage in adult activities by herself. And I'm like, you can just do that while I'm in the other room. And she's like, no, I need the apartment alone.
It's not the same. because her nervous system is regulating off yours, right? And like a lot of the time that's a really positive thing, and sometimes we just need that reset for ourselves. So I actually have that structured into my relationship. Tuesday nights, we always do our own thing.
Yeah, so it's sort of like your singles night, I guess.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I guess that's just it, the balance. And it's okay to spend time together, quality time together, sort of apart in your activities. And that's exactly what we're talking about here when we say parallel play. It's just a fancy psychological term. And
make sure that play is not just a numbing behavior, like TV, social media.
Doom scroll. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep. Laurel, what a pleasure it was talking to you. I appreciate you coming on the show and chatting about this with me.
Always happy to be here.
You can find Laurel Vander Toorn, who's a licensed therapist at Laurel Therapy Collective, and that serves California and Florida. Laurel, thank you so much again. I appreciate you being on the show.
Thanks.
Up next, a salacious headline. Married, single, young, old. People are having less sex than ever. A new study says we are in a sex recession. But why? That is what you'll learn on the other side of the break.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
When did making plans get this complicated? It's time to streamline with WhatsApp, the secure messaging app that brings the whole group together. Use polls to settle dinner plans. Send event invites and pin messages so no one forgets Mom's 60th. And never miss a meme or milestone. All protected with end-to-end encryption. It's time for WhatsApp. Message privately with everyone. Learn more at whatsapp.com.
Please be advised that the following program contains audio content that may be graphic and potentially triggering for some listeners. This content may include descriptions or sounds that some may find disturbing. Listener discretion is strongly advised. This is The Last Show with David Cooper.
Married, single, young, old, no matter who you are, you're probably having less sex than ever. A new study calls it a sex recession. And my upcoming guest says people are bed rotting. I guess the question is, why is our collective libido on the decline? I'm here with Professor of Sociology from University of Virginia, Brad Wilcox, to discuss. Brad, welcome to the program.
David, it's great to be with you today.
I love that the moment we're in, you're calling a sex recession. If you were to design like a billboard or an ad or just a short thing to let people know what's going on, what would you say in giant letters?
I would just say sex is down. And I think it's a surprise, to many of us. I've been talking about family and relationships and sex in my classes at UVA for more than 20 years and would never have kind of anticipated that we'd be kind of in this moment. But here we are.
What are the numbers like? Like, how much sex were we having in the past? How much sex are we having now?
Yeah, so we have good data that goes back to 1990, and it tells us that back in 1990, 55% of adults aged 18 to 64 were having sex at least once a week or more. And now we are down to 37% in 2024. And what's striking about that is it's even lower than it was in the COVID pandemic. So this is it's a pretty big shift, and it's from my perspective, it's troubling. So that's what's happening.
When I hear bed rotting, I think of the family and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, like never leaving the bed. Was it the grandparents? Can you paint us a picture of that? What is going on when you say people are bed rotting?
Well, so I have, I've got a big family. I've got a lot of kids, a lot of teenagers, a lot of young adults. And so I see a lot of stuff both with them and with their friends and acquaintances. And, just one of the things that you see kind of playing out today among, teenagers and young adults is just folks just lying in their bed, staring at the iPhone or an iPad, whatever it might be. And they're not doing all that much. And so I was sort of seeing this play out, and then came across the term bed rotting, and obviously understood that this is what it is. And it's not conducive to sex insofar as people are often kind of in their own bedrooms, and their girlfriend, their boyfriend may be across, the town, the city, whatever. But there's a way in which I think the technology has kind of tapped or sapped, I should say, the kind of the energy and the in-person, socializing that would have in a different day led to sex.
The decline, though, like I was 18 once. I had a first serious girlfriend a million years ago. And without getting too graphic, we were like rabbits. Are kids not doing that these days? Like, it's not just the older people, it's young people, which is kind of shocking to me.
That's correct. And so we have a kind of a graph in this report on the sex recession at the Institute for Family Studies that is looking at sexlessness among young adults from 1990 to 2024. And it's about 15%, from about 1990 to about 2010, give or take. And then it basically doubles almost. So we're seeing about, 24% of young adults reporting that they've had no sex in the last year, again, aged to 18 to 29. Other research tells us that sex is down among teenagers as well. So again, this is I think it's a consequence of many things, but I think one of the things it's a consequence of is the way in which people are kind of devoting too much time, energy, and attention to the virtual world rather than the real world. And we do see in this report as well, we have a tracker for young adults socializing with friends. It's the hours per week that young adults are spending with their friends. And we see that goes from 12 hours per week in about 2003 down to just 5.1 hours in 2024. So just kind of a dramatic decline in young adults socializing, which obviously affects their capacity to date, to mate, to marry, and to have sex as well.
Is it because we feel like being on our phones is socializing? Like scrolling on social media feels social to me when in a way it's kind of not?
Yeah, I think there's certainly a way in which, often you're watching people that you know or talking to people that you know, or you're kind of tracking, celebrities or politicians or other folks you kind of have some sense that you know. But again, it's a simulacra of, socializing oftentimes. It's a simulacra of being with people. And what we really need, and not just in the sexual arena, but in other arenas, of course, too, is to have much more in-person socializing. We've also been seeing in the same actual data set that we focus on for this report, happiness reports, David, are coming down among prime-aged adults as well. So, we are, as Aristotle said, we're social animals, and we are actually much more likely to thrive when we have opportunities to be with other people in the real world and to touch them and to be touched, including when it comes to sex as well.
Some folks that you interviewed said they'd rather sleep than have sex. On the one hand, I think that's funny. On the other hand, I can sometimes relate. Like, we're all busy. What are some of the other reasons or things that people are saying that they would rather do than have sex on a, I guess weekly basis or whatever the regular interval should be?
Well, I think people can be busy with regards to obviously work or, other things that are happening in their lives. Maybe the kids are up, need homework help. I mean, you can imagine. But I do think, part of the story here is there's less marriage. That's one of the factors that's driving, sex down in clear and important ways. And then the other big factor is just the way in which often almost involuntarily people find themselves just kind of scrolling or watching a series on Netflix, whatever, in ways that don't kind of, conduce to having sex. And we've seen, like historically, for instance, that like when the power goes out in cities, often 9 months later, you'll see an uptick in babies, So it's just that we have so many basically options now for entertainment, David, to distract us from kind of being together, that this is sort of one of the consequences of that dynamic.
Does adult entertainment play a role, like pornography, the access to it, or is that a scapegoat that we like to talk about? There's something else and deeper going on.
I think pornography does play a role. I think it's both a kind of, can be like a release valve for people. And then it can also be kind of, a competitive alternative to real sex. And so I think, if you didn't have access to really high quality pornography, you might be more inclined to make an effort, to go out and date, mate, marry, have sex, all that kind of stuff. So I do think that pornography is one of the factors that is kind of playing a role in terms of this sort of virtual world that's kind of pushing people away from the real world. If
someone's listening right now and they're thinking, gee, I'm in this group that isn't doing it very often, but I would like to do it very often, what would you recommend to them?
So, I think part of it is just kind of being also more deliberate about not kind of being on your device. I mean, if, we have a charger in the kitchen corner and we're really trying to get everyone to kind of keep their devices on the charger rather than with them. So it's kind of like being more ascetical, I think, is part of the answer when it comes to technology, having like little customs, little norms that allow you to kind of keep the device, or the devices at bay for substantial amounts of time. Jean Twenge is a psychologist with a new book on the kind of the 10 rules for kids. And her most important rule is no phones in the bedroom for kids. But I think that same rule could apply for adults as well.
Yeah.
But I think the other point here too is that we've been seeing, as I mentioned before, just this incredible decline in socializing. So I just encourage people to kind of go out more often with friends, exercise more with friends, volunteer more with friends. I'm religious, go to church more. These are the kinds of things that'll put you in touch with more people in the real world. I think that's, certainly one way to increase your romantic prospects and then also your odds of sex down the road as well.
Well, Brad Wilcox is a professor of sociology at the University of Virginia. He's a fellow at the Institute for Family Studies. And check out his book, Get Married, Why Americans Must Defy the Elites, Forge Strong Families and Save Civilization, available wherever books are sold. Brad, I appreciate you chatting with me today. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks, David.
Coming up next, that curious thing in medicine where you realize you have an ailment, you get a name of your disorder, and then all of a sudden you start to feel better and understand yourself better. It's a real quantifiable thing, and it's called the Rumpelstiltskin effect. There is value in simply receiving a diagnosis. We'll tell you more about that in a moment.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
Routine, adjective, used to describe an individual whose spirit is unyielding, unconstrained, one who navigates life on their own terms, effortlessly. They do not always show up on time, but when they arrive, you notice an individual confident in their contradictions. They know the rules, but behave as if they do not exist. Routine, the new fragrance by Miu Miu, defined by you.
The last show with David Cooper. Procrastinate your life away with us.
Have you ever noticed the simple act of naming what troubles you could bring relief? Labels carry surprising power. It's helpful to get a diagnosis. So let's explore how you, getting a specific diagnosis, can heal or harm, even without medication or treatment at all. It's kind of a fun name for this effect. It's called the Rumpelstiltskin effect, and we're here to discuss it with Dr. Awais Aftab, a psychiatry professor at Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland. Dr. Aftab, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you, David. Thanks for having me.
I just gave a crude definition, but starting simple in your own words, what is this Rumpelstiltskin effect, and why borrow a name from like a fairy tale goblin?
Yeah, so you actually nailed it quite well in your description. The central idea is that giving a clinical diagnosis to a condition, and could be a mental health condition, a physical health condition, that itself can have psychological benefits on well-being, is including benefits on the condition itself, that are independent of receiving a medical treatment and independent of receiving any accommodations. And this is a phenomena that has been noted and commented on by physicians, clinicians, patients for a long time, but curiously, it has never really been given a name and never been characterized formally. So me and my co-author, Alan Levinovitz, who's a professor of philosophy and religion at James Madison University, we set out together to do precisely that, to give it a name. And the reason, a professor of philosophy and religion and a psychiatrist are collaborating is the reason, behind this kind of the curious, Rumpelstiltskin kind of effect too. And this is because we think this phenomena has something to do with the power of ritual that has been, noted and commented on in human societies for a very long time. So people who might not be familiar, Rumpelstiltskin, this is a Grimm's fairy tale. And what happens is that there's a woman and she's in dire circumstances, and she promises her firstborn child to a little man in exchange for the ability to spin straw into gold. And then later on, when the man comes to collect, she begs for mercy. She's a queen at that point, and the man says, "Well, I'll let you go. I'll kind of I'll forgive this if you can tell me what my name is. You have to guess what my name is." And she goes through every name that she can think of in kind of German culture, including colloquial names and kind of nothing. And finally, kind of one of her servants kind of suggests or figures out the name Rumpelstiltskin, which is an esoteric kind of hidden name, and that's the correct one, and she's relieved. So there's this idea that something obscure, something exotic can capture the essence of something and produce benefits that common language cannot. So in that fairy tale, if she had said, funny little man, that would not have worked. But, giving it kind of that esoteric names that, being in possession of that esoteric knowledge, it did. So there's something curious going on in the medical profession where medicalized terminology seems to offer that kind of esoteric knowledge we once recognized in the form of fairy tales.
Anecdotally, I have a friend who was diagnosed with ADHD later in life. I think he was in his late 30s at the time. And once he got the diagnosis, medication aside, he seemed to have this better understanding of himself, how his brain worked. And this one example, if you just get the name of the ailment, it helps. Can you tell me about some positive examples, maybe similar to the one that my friend had?
Yeah, so I think adult ADHD is a very common example. This is, and this has been documented in media quite a bit. Autism is another example, especially when made later in life in adulthood. I think if you go back a few decades, when the understanding of depression as a medical condition, especially postpartum depression, was not very common, people felt tremendous relief at simply being recognized that women recognizing I have postpartum depression or I have postpartum anxiety. That's why I was struggling. I think people with poorly explained, physical kind of, conditions and ailments can sometimes get tremendous relief as being diagnosed with tinnitus, being diagnosed with long COVID,
Chronic fatigue is another one.
Chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia. And, they suddenly, I think that diagnosis gives a coherent way of talking about symptoms that are experiences that have been puzzling and confusing for a very long time. One of the things we talk about in that paper is that clinical terminology allows for a switch between two different modes of thinking. Our everyday way of talking about problems is very kind of laden with values and with agency. We often see problems in terms of personal deficiencies. So people, for example, who have struggled with attention concentration issues, they often internalize these narratives of I'm lazy, I'm not putting enough effort, procrastination, etc., etc. Versus kind of suddenly, when we look at that same phenomena from a medical lens or a clinical lens, we're looking at this phenomena that doesn't center agency in the same kind of way. We're looking at it through now neurotransmitters and brain circuits and pathways and psychological processes, and talking about kind of how it can be helped and relieved and understood. And that switch, I think, from the everyday way of understanding and looking at a problem to the clinical medical way of looking at a problem can be really beneficial.
Now, giving a name to your ailment, these examples, it helps people. There's got to be cases where it does harm. I'm thinking of like social media, armchair diagnoses that aren't correct. Are there ways in which overnaming things or trying to explain things that are wrong with us or that we think are wrong with us can go, well, bad?
Yes, yeah. Unfortunately, a diagnosis is a tool, and like any tool, it comes with kind of advantages and disadvantages. And the negative effects of diagnosis across medicine and psychiatry have also been pretty well documented. One of the issues is that certain diagnoses can attract a lot of stigma, and that stigma can be social. It can also be internalized, and so when a person receives a stigmatizing diagnosis, that can affect their self-esteem. It can affect their self-image in negative way. It can induce a sense of pessimism about recovery in certain cases. That would not have happened if the diagnosis had been kept open. And another kind of curious thing that has been noted is that diagnosis can sometimes trap a person into an identity. Because medical diagnoses, they're not intended to capture the essence of who a person is, but they are sometimes misunderstood in that kind of manner. So a person with a diagnosis of ADHD, for example, may even begin to interpret parts of their behavior as reflections of ADHD, and they can begin to say, "Oh, that's just who I am, and I have no reason to change those behaviors," even though they're perfectly capable of doing that. Similarly, a person with an anxiety disorder diagnosis might begin to proactively avoid situations that are anxiety inducing, but that can keep them in a kind of stuck in a perpetual cycle, because anxiety actually thrives on avoidance, and actually the best way of targeting anxiety is by gradually exposing yourself to uncomfortable, or distressing situations. So sometimes, diagnosis can provide unhelpful narratives where people can, get stuck in identities, that was not the original idea. And I think there's also a danger, especially with mental health diagnosis, that they can be understood in biologically reductive ways. People can begin to think that there is some kind of discrete abnormality in the brain, some kind of a chemical imbalance, so to speak, and that's scientifically a simplistic way of talking. Mental health disorders don't have specific abnormalities in the brain in the same way as neurological, disorders and do.
Now, Dr. Aftab, I appreciate you sharing with me this Rumpelstiltskin effect. It's really interesting. Thanks for being on the show.
Of course.
Dr. Awais Aftab is a psychiatry professor at Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland. After the break, this one's ridiculous. A landmark court case. Mark Zuckerberg is suing Mark Zuckerberg. That's right. A lawyer named Mark Zuckerberg is suing, the meta billionaire or whatever, because the lawyer is basically unable to use the internet. Every time he posts his name, things get taken down as spam. He's frustrated. And he's got a list of said frustrations with sharing a name with a billionaire. We'll have fun with this one in just a few minutes.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
Attention all small biz owners. At the UPS Store, you can count on us to handle your packages with care. With our certified packing experts, your packages are properly packed and protected. And with our pack and ship guarantee, when we pack it and ship it, we guarantee it. Because your items arrive safe or you'll be reimbursed. Visit the upsstore.com/guarantee for full details. Most locations are independently owned. Product services, pricing, and hours of operation may vary. See Center for details. The UPS Store. Be unstoppable. Come into your local store today.
Broadcasting from the neutral zone, where every perspective gets diplomatic immunity. This is The Last Show with David Cooper.
I would like to discuss the most important lawsuit of our time concerning all Mark Zuckerbergs. That's right, Mark Zuckerberg is suing Mark Zuckerberg. What am I talking about? Sounds confusing? Well, yes, it is. A lawyer who happens to be named Mark Zuckerberg, I never know how to pronounce it, is suing Meta's Mark Zuckerberg. And we are here to discuss this ridiculous lawsuit with senior culture writer at TechCrunch, Amanda Silberling. Amanda, welcome to the show.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Is it Zuckerberg or Zuckerberg? I never know which one's.
Zuckerberg.
Okay, all right. I did a great job with this introduction. When you first heard that MZ is suing MZ, did you think it was a typo, a glitch in the Matrix, the start of a Dr. Seuss book? Like, what did you make of this when you first heard of it?
I was excited that it was going to give me something fun to write about because sometimes I'm working on longer stories. Sometimes I'm just kind of like doing like various news stories throughout the day. And this was one of those days where I was like, what can I write about now? And then I saw that Mark Zuckerberg sued Mark Zuckerberg. And I'm like, well, I'm going to have a fun afternoon now because this is very funny already.
And the lawyer kind of seems to have a sense of humor about it. Like, he's written about his frustrations. He's written about what actually happens when you have a name that is the same as a billionaire. And it's like a lot of very frustrating things. I mean, his like social media gets canceled. He gets flagged as fraud all the time. He's unable to use certain online services. This actually has caused quite a bit of problems for him.
Yeah, like he has a website where he has a list of things that have happened to him because his name is Mark Zuckerberg. And as you said, it seems like at first he was like, oh, this is like a funny little inconvenience. But then the reason why he has sued Mark Zuckerberg is because he is a lawyer and he uses Facebook to advertise to clients. And that's apparently like a big way that he gets clients. And suddenly then his Facebook keeps getting suspended because his name is Mark Zuckerberg. So Facebook thinks it's fake. And then while he's paying for ads, if his account gets suspended while he's in the middle of paying for an ad campaign, then he doesn't get that money back. And he obviously, like, he's not doing anything wrong. Like, he's just using a very normal Facebook page, but his name is Mark Zuckerberg. So it seems like it escalated, but there are some funny things on his list of things that have happened to him for being named Mark Zuckerberg.
I had a great relative, like in the early 1900s, who was born Adolf. I believe he died Abraham. He changed his name. Why doesn't this guy just change his name? Like, is that easy to do, or is that something you shouldn't have to do?
I think he's stubborn because this guy is older than Mark Zuckerberg, Facebook founder. So he's kind of like, well, I was here first. And I get it. Like, it would be weird if all of a sudden there was someone famous named Amanda Silberling. Like, I wouldn't be like, oh, I have to go change my name. I'd be like, well, I guess I'm just in a war forever with this other Amanda. But that kind of probably is how he felt, because I believe that there's about like 30 years age difference between them or more.
Yeah, he wrote something like he was practicing law since the Facebook founder was like 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 years old. This is free publicity, though. I mean, you wrote about it in TechCrunch. We're talking about it now. This is the kind of publicity some bankruptcy lawyer wouldn't be getting otherwise. So there is some benefit, I guess, from this.
Yeah, like, we're talking about it, and now I guess if I ever have a business in Indiana that goes bankrupt, I will be like, well, I know of an Indiana bankruptcy lawyer I could contact, but that doesn't seem a likely route for my life to go, given that I've never been to Indiana and I'm not a business owner. But some of the things on the list that have like happened to him that are kind of like not ideal is like he'll make a dinner reservation and then the reservation doesn't get taken seriously because they think it's a prank, and he's like, no, I'm just trying to have dinner and now my reservation got canceled. Or I think like one of the funniest ones on the list to me was that he was speaking at a conference in Las Vegas because I guess in the bankruptcy law world, Mr. Mark Zuckerberg is a guy who is worth listening to speak at conferences. And so he comes down the escalator at the airport and there's a limo driver holding a sign that says Mark Zuckerberg, and everyone in the airport is like, oh my God, Mark Zuckerberg's coming. And then this other guy just comes down, and then everyone's disappointed. And I just can't imagine like coming down an escalator and then people around you being like, oh man.
I would personally love it. I would find it funny every day. To that end, if you were the judge presiding over Zuckerberg versus Zuckerberg, how would you stop yourself from laughing every time you had to say, Mr. Zuckerberg?
I mean, I feel like this is why I'm not a lawyer or a judge, because this stuff is just very funny to me. And then I get to have fun in writing about it, where I was like, well, I could write like Mark S. Zuckerberg and Mark E. Zuckerberg, but it's more fun to be like, Mark Zuckerberg sued Mark Zuckerberg because his name is Mark Zuckerberg, and Mark Zuckerberg doesn't want his Facebook profile to be banned by Mark Zuckerberg on Mark Zuckerberg's platform. Like,
my middle name is Thomas, so I suppose if I went by my initials, I'd be DT Cooper. I wish it was something like Brad, because then I could be DB Cooper, the famous plane hijacker. Why doesn't this guy just go by like M, middle initial, Zuckerberg? Like, he could modify his name, I suppose.
I feel like even M. Zuckerberg would be kind of like close. Like, it just, like, I don't know. I guess I've never met another Zuckerberg, so I don't know how common of a last name that is, but like Mark is a pretty common name. Like, I'm surprised we don't see this more. Like, I guess maybe there's not another Elon Musk out there, but like that would suck.
Yeah, that would certainly suck.
Yeah, but I think it's maybe different because this is such a specific name. Like, I know a Jennifer Lopez, and it's just kind of like a fun little like, oh, haha, your name's Jennifer Lopez. But like, we are more predisposed to be like, yes, Jennifer and Lopez are both common names.
But not so much with Zuckerberg. The guy says he gets like hate messages, because I suppose any billionaire, especially if you run a moderately evil social media company, is going to get the occasional like threatening message, and people are looking to send them. They find this guy's profile instead of the CEO. They send the message. That must be awful.
Yeah, I think also because I'm sure that Mark Zuckerberg, Facebook guy, has like crazy amounts of security, because even as like a journalist, like I have some security measures in place because people get angry and do bad things, and you don't want that to happen. So I'm sure like Mark Zuckerberg probably has whatever I have times like 12 million. And then lawyer Mark Zuckerberg probably hasn't like thought about this at all because he's just a lawyer in Indiana. So then if someone's like, I'm going to send hate mail to Mark Zuckerberg, they're probably actually more likely to find the lawyer's address than the tech CEO's address.
Sure, he's probably listed. The lawsuit, I know you're not a lawyer, but is there merit to it? Can this guy sue for Facebook marking his advertisement for his law firm or his practice as spam?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm not a lawyer, but it does seem like, yeah, I mean, this guy is like spending money on Facebook ads, and then Facebook is not running the ads, which I don't know if there's something in like the terms and conditions when you run an advertisement on Facebook. There's probably something like if your account gets banned, sorry, but also his account is being wrongfully banned, and it's just getting flagged because his name is Mark Zuckerberg, and it's probably AI content moderation, because I think a human would be able to tell like, no, this is actually like some guy. But
well, I really screwed up this interview, Amanda. I should have announced a drinking game for our listeners. Every time we say the word Zuckerberg, you take a drink. Everyone would end up in the hospital with alcohol poisoning. Mm-hmm. But I appreciate you going over this lawsuit with me. This was a lot of fun. Amanda, thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Amanda Silberling is a senior culture writer at TechCrunch. Coming up, scientists have just detected the loudest black hole merger ever recorded. For reference here, it's 3 times stronger than that one a few years ago that won a Nobel Prize. It's all thanks to upgraded instruments that we're hearing these amazing, violent, cosmic collisions with sharper clarity than ever. Also, what does it mean for a black hole merger to be loud? Does space carry sound? We're talking ripples in gravity, and you'll learn all about it in just a few moments.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
I am so excited for this spa day. Candles lit, music on, hot tub warm and ready. And then my chronic hives come back. Again, in the middle of my spa day. What a wet blanket. Looks like another spell of itchy red skin. If you have chronic spontaneous urticaria or CSU, there is a different treatment option. Hives during my next spa day? Not if I can help it. Learn more at treatmyhives.com.
For those who know that questioning everything includes questioning this show's existence. The Last Show with David Cooper.
When we think black holes, we think some of the strangest, most fascinating celestial objects out there. But recently, a loud one has been detected, the loudest one ever. How do they even make sounds? What does this mean? We're about to discuss with Dr. Rhiannon Udall, who's an astrophysicist at the University of British Columbia. Rhiannon, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I was so captured by this article about this black hole because I, as a kid, always just wondered what these objects were, how they worked, how they broke space and time. But what is so exciting about this announcement? What separates this one that was recently detected from all the others?
Yeah, so I think the exciting thing about this one is that it's the loudest and really the cleanest signal we've ever had. So these are actually, the signals we get are two black holes that are spiraling into each other. Right at the end of that, they sort of smash into each other, and they make the universe ripple so hard that we can detect it. And this was such a perfect clean case of this happening that we're able to use it to understand the shapes of these black holes at a precision that we've never been in. And that lets us understand the theories.
So taking a step back, I imagine if I'm listening in space, sound needs air to travel through. They're not really loud. What does it mean when we say some celestial event is loud?
Yeah, so technically, actually, these aren't producing sound at all. What they're producing are called gravitational waves. And so this is the warping of space-time itself. So the distances are getting shorter and then longer because these things make the whole of space move ripple with them. And in this case, loud is actually in reference to the noise in our detector. So because as we've gotten these detectors better, the noise of quantum stuff and seismic noise and all this stuff has gotten quieter, we can see the ripples due to these black holes ever more.
And I was recently shocked to find out that gravity doesn't sort of happen instantaneously. If a really big event happens that causes a change in gravity far away, that change, or those waves, those gravitational waves, they actually travel at the speed of light, don't they?
That's exactly right. Yeah, everything in the universe it's the maximum speed limit of the speed of light, and gravitational waves. So this event actually happened 1.3 billion years ago.
Interesting. So we sort of feel that wave, if you can think of it as the ocean, but instead it's this sort of gravitational ripple. We feel it, and we're sort of listening or detecting into the past, which is so cool. How does the detector work? Are we talking LIGO? What's the basic premise of this?
Yes, this is LIGO. So the way it works is that you have basically sort of an L shape, and so you send a laser off in two directions and then bring it back together again. And what we're testing is, has the laser moved the exact same distance in each direction? And gravitational waves will make this so this isn't true. And then we can detect the difference in how far it traveled, and from that understand the gravitation.
Using our sun as a reference point, I suppose, or something nearby, how big are we talking when we say these black holes that merged are big?
Well, that depends on what you mean by big. So their mass, which is the defining characteristic of them, is about 35 times the mass. But their actual physical size is only tens of kilometers. So this is 30 suns stuffed into the space of a city.
Wow.
So these are a lot more extreme than anything we have on Earth.
So they're not big, but they're extremely dense. And what is so chaotic about them? Because that seems relatively small for an object out there in deep space, in another galaxy or whatever. How intense are these collisions that make them such a quote-unquote loud event?
Well, a good reference point is that the process of this collision put out basically turned 3 suns worth of mass into pure energy by E equals mc squared. That's more than the light of billions of stars all at once. So this is briefly was the brightest thing happening in the entire observable universe, except that it wasn't light, so you can only see it if you can see gravity.
Interesting. And when you say these two black holes collided, quote unquote, cleanly, what does that mean?
Yeah, so black holes are pretty simple, actually, by the standards of astrophysics. Stars are, they're big, they have lots of stuff in them. Black holes are really just a thing that waves in and out and spins a certain amount, and that's it. And so when you have 2 of these, you can measure those few properties very well. So it turns out these ones also really weren't spinning very much. And the noise was very low at the time we were doing this. So we were able to pick apart, like, what did each of the black holes going into this look like? Like, how were they shaped, essentially? And what was the shape of the black hole? And by comparing this, we're able to check that it is what we expect it should.
It wasn't so many years ago that we'd never seen a black hole. I know, what was it, 4 or 5 years ago, we finally imaged one using all kinds of numbers crunched from telescopes around the world. We'd never detected one directly. Are we kind of in a golden age of black hole detection? I mean, this is all relatively new stuff that we can see them and directly detect them, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. 10 years ago was the first LIGO detection, and now we found hundreds of these at. You noted the EHT, that's the Event Horizon Telescope, imaging these black holes again now. We see black holes that eat other matter, like the matter will fall into them and explode outwards. And that was actually the first kind of black hole. And so the field has really exploded in just the past. We're learning so much about.
How common are they? Is my fear that like a tarantula will bite me from under the bed or a black hole will collide with our solar system probably not founded? But how many of these objects are there out there, like, let's say, nearby even?
That's a great question. We don't have great answers because, among other things, they're very hard to see. So we know about the black holes we see, but we don't necessarily know about all the black holes we don't. We can make estimates. I can say safely the chance of a black hole flying through our solar system is very low. Now, if our solar system was at the center of the galaxy, that would be a different story. A black hole easily could come smashing, but we're not. We're in a nice, quiet neighborhood. So the risks are pretty low. But they are surprisingly common in astrophysics. Like for something so extreme, any star greater than say about 8 to 10 times the mass of our sun will leave a black hole behind, dies, and so there's a lot of.
And do they decay over time, or are they just always there?
So this is an interesting question. They do decay over time, but very slowly. So this was something that Stephen Hawking discovered 50 years ago now. And actually, another part of Hawking's discovery is what was being tested with this event. But what he discovered is awful radiation. They will decay, but on a time scale for far longer than the lifetime. So far. So every star will blink out before the first black hole starts to evaporate.
Interesting. So we're talking like trillions or hundreds of trillions or whatever number comes after trillion.
Far like trillions of trillions years.
What makes you so excited about this loud detection?
Well, so I think what's exciting is that it's a good point of, okay, we can do this. Like we've seen one of these, we're going to see more. And this one I said was like almost perfectly boring, so we could test our theories of general relativity. But the fact that we've seen this boring thing so loud means that soon we're going to see really interesting stuff. So we're going to see black holes doing things that we didn't expect. We're going to see them in situations where we don't think that they could get there normally. And so the chance to explore this more in depth is really.
Well, Dr. Rhiannon Udall is an astrophysicist at the University of British Columbia. Rhiannon, thanks for joining me today. I appreciate you talking about this interesting discovery.
Thank you for having me.
Woo-wee, that is a wrap on our Friday night show. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll catch you Monday night. Don't forget, the last show is available, you guessed it, as a podcast. Just search Last Show David Cooper on your favorite podcast app, or head to www.lastshow.pizza. That's lastshow.pizza, not .com, for more details. I'm David Cooper, and this has not and has never been the first show, and I'd like to give you some sage-like wisdom, but instead, I got nothing. Good night.
Doug. Limu and I always tell you to customize your car insurance and save hundreds with Liberty Mutual. But now, we want you to feel it. Cue the emu music, Limu.
Save yourself money today. Increase your wealth. Customize and save, we say.
That may have been too much feeling.
Only pay for what you need at libertymutual.com.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Savings vary. Underwritten by Liberty Mutual Insurance Company and affiliates. Excludes Massachusetts.